Summer, 1943. A German soldier in a Tennessee prison camp stares at a bottle of Coca-Cola like he's seeing magic for the first time. This guy just spent 2 years fighting in North Africa, surviving on hard biscuits and whatever coffee substitute they could scrape together. And now, he's holding a fizzing, sweet, ice-cold drink that costs 5 cents. The same price American kids pay with their allowance money. What happened next is so crazy that when these guys went home and told their families, nobody believed them. Ice cream in the middle of the ocean, unlimited candy bars, weight gain that made no sense. And here's the wildest part. This 5-cent Coca-Cola would completely flip their understanding of reality. If you want to see how a soda bottle changed everything, hit subscribe, drop a like, and turn on that notification bell. This story gets absolutely insane. Let's go back to May 1943. Tunisia, North Africa. About 250,000 German and Italian soldiers just surrendered to the Allies. These weren't random troops. These were veteran desert fighters who'd been pushing across Africa for months under brutal conditions. Picture these guys. They'd been living in the desert, dealing with sandstorms, extreme heat, and food rations that kept getting smaller and smaller. Hard biscuits that could break your teeth. Coffee that wasn't even real coffee, just some substitute they scraped together. That was daily life for them. And here's what they're thinking as they surrender. They're expecting harsh treatment. Really harsh. Minimal food. Tough conditions. They're mentally preparing themselves for a rough situation ahead. But get this, within hours of surrendering, they're handed something called K-rations. Now, American soldiers constantly complained about these field rations, thought they were absolute garbage, not good enough, too boring, but to these German guys, these things were like treasure chests being opened right in front of them. We're talking crackers, actual crackers that weren't stale or rock hard. Processed cheese, candy bars, fruit bars, instant coffee with actual sugar tablets you could add to it, and cigarettes, all in one little package. These guys had been surviving on minimal food for months, rationing everything, making supplies stretch as far as they could. And suddenly they're eating what Americans considered emergency rations, basic field food, the stuff American soldiers were complaining about and trading away. But these German soldiers, they're treating it like a feast, like they just hit the jackpot. Here's where it gets really wild, though. At the processing camps in North Africa, the Americans started serving them actual hot meals. We're not talking about more rations or basic provisions. We're talking pancakes, with syrup poured on top, fresh eggs that weren't powdered or preserved, milk, real, actual milk, cold milk. These were foods that had completely disappeared from German military meals years before this moment. Years. Most of these guys hadn't seen fresh eggs or real milk since before they even shipped out to Africa. Listen to what one officer said later, and this stuck with him forever. The Americans fed us better than our own army had. Just stop and think about that for a second. He's a prisoner now. He's captured. And he's eating better food now than when he was back serving as a soldier. Better meals as a prisoner than he'd had in years. That doesn't make any sense, right? That's when the confusion started setting in. Because this wasn't what they expected at all. They're sitting there eating pancakes and fresh eggs like it's nothing, like it's just another Tuesday morning. The whole situation wasn't adding up in their heads. So now these guys are getting loaded onto ships to cross the Atlantic. And we're not talking about just any ships. These are Liberty ships. Here's something crazy. America was cranking them out every 42 hours at peak production. Every 42 hours. Less than 2 days, and boom, another massive ship rolling out. That's industrial production on a scale these guys had never seen. They're packing up to 30,000 prisoners every month onto these ships for the Atlantic journey. That's like moving an entire city's worth of people across the ocean, month after month. And the trip takes about 2 weeks on the open ocean. Now you'd think prisoners would get minimal food for a journey like that, right? Just enough to survive the crossing. Nope. Get this. These guys were getting 3,500 calories a day. That's not survival rations. That's a full meal plan. The same amount the actual ship crew was eating. Fresh bread baked on board, meat, real vegetables, and coffee. Not that substitute garbage they'd been drinking. Actual coffee with real sugar and milk. Let me paint you a picture of what these guys were used to. In North Africa, they'd been rationing everything down to the last crumb, sharing mouldy bread, drinking water that tasted like metal, going days on hard biscuits. That was normal life. So imagine going from that to 3 hot meals a day on a ship. It didn't compute. But here's what really blew their minds. These ships had refrigeration systems, standard equipment on American vessels, which meant the food stayed fresh the entire 2-week crossing. No spoiled meat, no mouldy bread. Everything kept cold and preserved. For guys who'd been eating whatever they could get in the desert, fresh food on a ship in the middle of the ocean seemed like science fiction. They're watching American sailors walk around like this is completely normal, like having fresh vegetables a week into an ocean voyage is just how things work. Nobody's treating it special. It's just Tuesday on a Liberty ship. And that casual attitude about abundance? That was almost more shocking than the food itself. Now listen to this part because it sounds made up. On July 4th, 1943, the USS General M.B. Stewart served ice cream to the prisoners. Ice cream in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean, not just a little scoop for officers. We're talking about serving it to everyone on board, prisoners included. The ship had an ice cream maker that could produce 10 gallons per batch. They weren't rationing it. They made it and served it like it was no big deal. Picture what's going through these guys' heads. Most of them hadn't seen ice cream since before the war started. Some of the younger guys had never tasted it at all. And here they are, prisoners on a ship in the middle of nowhere, getting served frozen dessert like it's a normal Tuesday afternoon. They're eating ice cream while there's nothing but ocean for thousands of miles. The whole situation felt surreal, like they'd stepped into some alternate reality where normal expectations didn't match what was actually happening. The disconnect between what they thought prison life would be and what they were experiencing kept getting bigger. But instead of harsh conditions, they're gaining weight, they're eating better than they had in years, and they're having ice cream on a ship in the middle of the Atlantic. Some of these guys started wondering if this was temporary. Like maybe once they hit American soil, things would change. That's got to be coming, right? But here's the thing. They had no idea what was actually waiting for them when those ships docked. The ships dock at American ports, places like Norfolk and Newport News. And the second these guys step off those vessels, they're hit with something they weren't prepared for. Norfolk Naval Base is massive. We're talking 4,300 acres of waterfront facilities. This place handles more cargo in a single day than major European ports were managing in entire weeks. Just the scale of it all is mind-blowing. Ships coming and going constantly, cranes moving, trucks loading and unloading. It's organized chaos on a level they'd never witnessed before. But here's what really gets their attention. The dock exchanges. These are basically shops for the dock workers. And these prisoners are walking past them, getting glimpses inside. The shelves are stocked, like fully stocked. Candy bars from companies they'd heard of but never actually seen the products from. Hershey, Mars, Nestle, rows and rows of them. And get this, they're all priced at 5 cents. 5 cents for a candy bar. The same exact price that American kids pay with their allowance money. Think about what that means for a second. These aren't luxury items being sold at premium prices during wartime. They're not rationed or hard to get. They're just sitting there on shelves, available to anyone who walks in with a nickel. Dock workers buying them on their lunch breaks. Nobody treating it like it's special. It's just another day, just another candy bar. For these German guys watching this, it's like seeing a completely different world operate right in front of them. Now they're getting loaded onto trains for the journey inland, and here's where you'd expect the prisoner treatment to finally kick in, right? Packed into cargo cars, uncomfortable conditions, long, miserable ride to wherever they're going. Nope. They're putting these guys in passenger coaches. Regular passenger coaches like you'd take on a normal train trip, seats, windows, the whole setup. But wait, it gets better. These trains have dining cars, actual restaurant-style dining cars attached to them, and they're serving full meals. We're not talking about sandwiches passed down the aisle or cold rations handed out. We're talking hot food served in a dining car. Fried chicken, vegetables, pie for dessert, coffee. This is standard American rail service. This is what regular passengers get when they travel by train. The German prisoners are sitting there eating fried chicken on a train, looking out the window at America rolling by, and their brains are just trying to process what's happening. They're prisoners on a train getting restaurant service. The gap between what they expected and what they're experiencing just keeps getting wider. And the American guards? They're acting like this is completely normal, not making a big deal out of it, not explaining anything, just treating the whole situation like this is standard procedure, which apparently it is. This is just how things work here. Prisoners get fed, trains have dining cars, candy bars cost 5 cents. None of it needs explaining because to Americans this is just everyday life. These guys are starting to realize something. This isn't special treatment. This isn't some temporary phase before things get tough. This is actually just normal life here. The abundance they're experiencing isn't the exception. It's what's typical. And that realization is starting to fundamentally mess with how they understand things. Their entire frame of reference is shifting. So they arrive at the camps, places like Camp Crossville in Tennessee and dozens of others scattered across America. These guys are bracing themselves. This is where reality's gonna hit, right? This is where the harsh conditions finally start. They walk into these camps and find electric lights, hot water running from actual taps, flush toilets, heated barracks for the winter. These aren't rough prison setups. These are facilities with modern conveniences. The kind of stuff that plenty of people back home in Germany didn't even have in their own houses. But here's the thing that really breaks their brains. The camp exchanges, they call them PX stores. These places are stocked like corner shops back in American towns, shelves full of products, multiple brands of everything. Let's talk about what's actually in these stores. Coca-Cola, Pepsi, Dr. Pepper, RC Cola. Not just one soda option, multiple brands competing for shelf space, candy bars from different companies, ice cream where the camps have refrigeration, cigarettes, fresh fruit, beer, the 3.2% stuff, beer available to prisoners in a prison camp store. Now here's where the mathematics get interesting. These prisoners are earning 80 cents a day for work around the camps. Some jobs pay up to $1 daily. A candy bar costs 5 cents. A bottle of Coca-Cola? 5 cents. So if you're earning 80 cents a day, you can buy 16 candy bars. Or 16 Cokes. 16 items from one day's work. Back home, if these items even existed, and for most Germans they didn't, you'd need special connections to get them. They'd be expensive luxuries saved for rare occasions. Here, you work one shift and you've got pocket change that can buy more candy and soda than you could have gotten in a month back home. These guys are watching American guards walk into the same PX stores, buying the same products, paying the same prices. There's no separate prisoner section with inferior goods. It's the same Coca-Cola, the same Hershey bars, the same prices American kids pay with their allowance. And nobody's acting like this is generous. The guards aren't standing around going, "Look how good you have it." They're just running a camp with a store. It's treated as completely normal. This is just how things work. Some of these guys are buying Coca-Cola every single day, just casually walking to the PX after work, grabbing a cold Coke and sitting down to drink it. This fizzy, sweet drink that most of them had never heard of a few months ago is now part of their daily routine. like it's nothing. The younger prisoners who'd never tasted soda before are now developing favourite brands. I like Pepsi better than Coke, or Dr. Pepper's weird, but I'm into it. They're having brand preferences, as prisoners, in a prison camp. The absurdity of it isn't lost on them, but they're living it anyway. And the ice cream, where camps have refrigeration, they're selling ice cream, different flavours. You can buy a scoop, or two, or however many you want as long as you've got the money. Some guys are having ice cream multiple times a week. Not as a rare treat, as a regular thing they just do now. Because they can. The whole setup feels like somebody made a mistake, but week after week, month after month, nothing changes. The stores stay stocked, the prices stay the same, the paychecks keep coming, and these prisoners are living better than most of them had lived in years as soldiers. Let's talk about Coca-Cola for a second, because this drink becomes the symbol of everything these guys are experiencing. Get this. In 1943 alone, the Coca-Cola company produced 5 billion bottles. 5 billion. That's 5 billion bottles being made, filled, capped, and distributed while America's simultaneously fighting a war on multiple continents. They're setting up bottling plants near these prison camps, not shipping bottles from far away, actually building facilities close to the camps specifically for distribution. During wartime, when resources are tight, they're dedicating materials and workers to build bottling plants so prisoners can get fresh Coca-Cola. These German prisoners are watching delivery trucks roll up to the Camp PX stores every week with crates of the stuff. Fresh stock arriving like clockwork. Nobody's treating it as a big deal. The trucks come, they unload, the shelves get restocked. For these guys, this is the moment it really sinks in. This isn't emergency supply. This is everyday normal. Here's where their brains really start to break. You've got the glass for billions of bottles, the sugar, the machinery, the trucks, the distribution network reaching everywhere. And all of this is happening while America's building ships, planes, tanks, and everything else for the war effort. There's no either-or here. It's both. All at once. You don't just casually produce 5 billion of anything. That requires massive systems and infrastructure, and it's all happening during a global war while also making sure prisoners can buy Coca-Cola for a nickel. The guards aren't explaining any of this. They're just living their lives, buying their own Cokes from the same PX, treating the whole thing as completely unremarkable, and that casual attitude drives the point home harder than any lecture could. When abundance is so normal that nobody even thinks to mention it, that's when you know you're dealing with something different. These prisoners start paying attention to the bottles themselves. Every Coca-Cola bottle looks the same. Same shape, same size, same logo. Whether you're buying it in Tennessee or Texas, it's identical. That level of consistency across millions of bottles requires serious quality control. And here's the thing. It's not just Coca-Cola. It's Pepsi, Dr. Pepper, RC Cola. Multiple companies all producing millions of bottles of carbonated drinks, all competing for shelf space, all available for 5 cents. Back home, if you could get one brand of something, that was doing well. Here, there's multiple options for everything. The prisoners who'd never tasted carbonated drinks before are now having conversations about which brand they prefer. Coca-Cola's sweeter. Pepsi's got more fizz. Dr. Pepper tastes weird, but I kind of like it. They're developing preferences about products that didn't exist in their world a few months ago. Some guys are drinking 2 or 3 Cokes a day, not because they're thirsty, just because they can. Because 5 cents is nothing when you're earning 80 cents to $1 daily. Within weeks, guys who'd never seen a Coca-Cola before are walking past the PX, deciding whether they want a Coke or maybe a Dr. Pepper today. The bottles pile up, empty glass bottles everywhere, mountains of them as physical proof of how much is being consumed, and those piles keep growing, week after week, month after month. This isn't temporary abundance. This is sustained, continuous availability that never stops. Now let's talk about ice cream, because this is where things get truly bizarre. We're talking about unlimited ice cream, no restrictions, no rationing. If you want ice cream, you buy ice cream. If you want seconds, you get seconds. Nobody's stopping you. Here's what starts happening. These guys are gaining serious weight. Some prisoners are putting on 30 to 50 pounds during their time in these camps. That's a complete physical transformation. Guys who arrived looking gaunt from desert combat are now filling out, looking healthier than they have in years. And it's not just weight, their overall health is improving dramatically. Skin looks better, energy levels are up, dental issues are stabilizing because they're finally getting proper nutrition. These guys are in better shape now than they've been in years. Think about what that means. You go from North Africa, barely getting by on minimal rations, to being captured, and suddenly you're the healthiest you've been in years. Your body is recovering, you're gaining weight, you're eating ice cream multiple times a week. The whole situation is completely backwards from what anyone expected. The ice cream becomes a daily ritual. After work detail, groups of prisoners head to the PX. They order ice cream, vanilla, chocolate, strawberry, whatever's available. Some get it in cups, some get cones. Some order sundaes with toppings. And they sit there eating ice cream, having casual conversations like they're at an American soda fountain. Here's what really drives it home: the portions. Back home, if you were lucky enough to get ice cream, you got a small scoop and made it last. Here, guys are getting generous portions, big scoops, and if they want more, they just buy more. 5 or 10 cents, and they've got another serving. Some prisoners are treating ice cream like a meal, having it for dessert after lunch, then going back for more after dinner. The guards aren't stopping anyone. If you've got the money and want ice cream, that's your business. And get this, the variety keeps changing. One week it's vanilla and chocolate. Next week they've got strawberry. Some places get butter pecan. So not only is ice cream readily available, there's actual variety. That's not how scarcity works. The younger prisoners who'd never had ice cream before are becoming connoisseurs. Chocolate's too rich. I like vanilla better. Kids who grew up where ice cream was something you maybe heard about are now casually comparing flavors like regulars at an ice cream parlor. The weight gain becomes visible to everyone. Uniforms that were loose are now fitting properly or getting tight. Faces that were hollow are filling out. When new prisoners arrive, the ones who've been there a while look noticeably different. Healthier, fuller, better fed. Camp photographs tell the story. Early photos show gaunt, tired-looking men. Photos from months later show the same guys looking completely different. The transformation isn't subtle, it's dramatic and undeniable. And a lot of that change comes from regular access to ice cream. Here's something wild. Some prisoners start feeling guilty about how well they're eating. They're getting letters from home about food shortages, families struggling to get basic supplies. Meanwhile, they're eating ice cream. Some guys downplay it in their letters because it sounds too unbelievable. They feed us well here, instead of, I had ice cream 3 times this week. The ice cream keeps coming week after week. The supply never runs out. The PX never posts signs saying, no ice cream today. It's just always there, always available, always 5 or 10 cents. That reliability of supply is almost as shocking as the product itself. Here's where things get even wilder. Some camps start allowing supervised visits into nearby American towns. Groups of prisoners with guards walking into actual American towns to see how regular people live. And what they find blows their minds all over again. They walk into American supermarkets. These aren't small corner shops with bare shelves. These are full-sized stores with aisle after aisle of products. The cereal aisle alone has dozens of brands. Different boxes, different companies, different flavors. Back home, if you could get cereal, you got whatever was available. Here, you're choosing between 20 different options. The candy aisle is the same, rows of different candy bars, chocolate brands, gum, mints, everything packaged nicely, clearly priced, sitting there for anyone to buy. No rationing cards, no special permissions. You walk in, pick what you want, pay, and leave. These prisoners are watching regular American families shopping, mums with kids, older couples, everyday Americans filling up shopping baskets with amounts of food that would feed a German family for weeks. They're not stockpiling. This is just normal grocery shopping for 1 week. The kids are the real eye-opener. American children asking their parents for candy, and the parents are saying yes, just casual, "Okay, put it in the basket" responses. Kids getting candy bars as casual treats. Like it's nothing. Then there's the soda fountains. Drugstores with soda fountains inside where you can sit at a counter and order drinks and ice cream. The prisoners watch regular Americans ordering ice cream sundaes with multiple scoops, toppings, whipped cream, cherries. And the person serving them is just scooping ice cream like it's their job, which it is. Here's what really gets them. They can use their camp wages in these civilian businesses. They walk into a drugstore, order a Coca-Cola or ice cream sundae, pay with their American coins, and get served just like any other customer. Think about that. German prisoners sitting at American soda fountain counters, being served ice cream by American civilians, paying with money they earned at prison camps. And the civilians aren't treating it as weird. They're just doing their jobs, serving customers. Some camps near small towns make this a semi-regular thing. Once a month, groups rotate through for town visits, and prisoners are buying stuff, magazines, snacks, toiletries, whatever they can afford with their camp wages. They're participating in the American economy as prisoners during a war. The supermarket visits stick with these guys, walking down endless aisles, everything labelled with prices, everything organised and clean. The abundance isn't just in quantity, it's in the variety, the presentation, the casual availability. Nobody's guarding anything, nobody's restricting access. It's just there for whoever walks in with money. And the prices blow their minds. Bread costs a reasonable amount, coffee is affordable on regular wages, eggs won't break the bank. These are regular retail prices that regular Americans pay every day, and those Americans can afford them because wages are high enough that buying groceries isn't a crisis. The prisoners are doing math in their heads. If workers earn decent wages and groceries cost what they cost, then people can afford to eat well, can afford candy for their kids, can afford soda fountains occasionally. The economics work out. The whole system functions at a level where abundance is accessible to regular people. Some prisoners have conversations with American civilians during these visits. Nothing deep, just casual small talk. Where are you from? What do you think of America? And the Americans are curious and friendly, asking questions, interested in hearing about life in Germany, about the desert campaign, just regular conversations between people. The whole experience of seeing American civilian life up close changes something in these prisoners. Seeing how regular Americans actually live, families shopping for groceries, kids getting candy, people ordering ice cream at soda fountains, that's a whole society operating on a level of prosperity that most of these guys didn't think was possible. So the war ends. These prisoners head home with stories that sound absolutely insane. They're telling families about prison camps with hot water, about getting paid to buy Coca-Cola and candy bars, about ice cream, about gaining 30 to 50 pounds as prisoners. And nobody believes them. Not at first. Their families are listening, thinking they've lost their minds. You gained weight as a prisoner? You had ice cream multiple times a week? Come on. That can't be real. But there's too many of them telling the same stories. Thousands of returned prisoners all saying the same things about American abundance. The consistency starts making people wonder, maybe this actually happened. Post-war interviews show how much the experience stuck with them. A guy interviewed in 1985, that's 40 years later, talks about his first Coca-Cola. "My first Coca-Cola was like drinking the future. It was sweet, fizzing, completely unnecessary, and available to anyone for a nickel." 40 years later, and that's what he remembers. These stories get passed down to the next generation. Kids hearing their fathers talk about prison camps with ice cream, stores with dozens of options. At first, these kids think their dads are telling tall tales. But then West Germany recovers. American products start becoming available, and suddenly these kids are walking into stores seeing Coca-Cola on shelves, trying ice cream, seeing the variety their fathers described, and they're realizing Dad was telling the truth. It was all real. A lot of these prisoners' children end up studying in America, working there, moving there, drawn by their fathers' stories of abundance. They get to America and find it matches the tales. Everything their fathers told them turns out accurate. Fast forward to today. McDonald's operates over 1,400 restaurants in Germany. Coca-Cola is everywhere. Ice cream is ordinary. The transformation from scarcity to abundance is complete. The prisoners who experienced it came home as witnesses. They told their stories, raised their kids with those stories. And over time, those stories influenced how an entire society thought about prosperity. Today, when you walk through a German city and see Coca-Cola signs, McDonald's, ice cream shops everywhere, you're seeing a transformation that started with prisoners gaining weight in American camps, with guys developing brand preferences for soda they'd never heard of, with men getting served ice cream on ships. But it all started with something simple, a 5-cent Coca-Cola in a Tennessee prison camp. So here's the wild thing about this whole story. These guys didn't get convinced through speeches or lectures. It happened through ice cream, through Coca-Cola, through candy bars that cost 5 cents. Think about how insane that is. You've got guys who showed up expecting the worst, and instead they're gaining 30 pounds, developing favourite soda brands and eating ice cream multiple times a week. They're walking into American towns, sitting at soda fountains, shopping in supermarkets, and Americans are just acting like this is completely normal, because to them it is. That casual attitude about abundance, that's what really got to these prisoners. Not that America had all this stuff, but that having it was so normal that nobody even thought to make a big deal about it. Guards buying the same Coca-Cola for the same 5 cents. Kids getting candy bars as casual treats. Families filling shopping carts like it's nothing. These prisoners came home and spent the rest of their lives talking about what they saw, telling stories that sounded too wild to be true. Their kids grew up hearing about American abundance and eventually experienced it firsthand. And now, Germany's got the same consumer culture, the same casual access to variety and choice. The craziest part? It all started with a German soldier staring at a bottle of Coca-Cola in a Tennessee prison camp, trying to understand how any of this was real. That 5-cent fizzy drink represented something bigger. A whole different world where abundance was so normal that even prisoners got to experience it. And that's the story nobody really talks about when they discuss World War II. Not the battles, not the strategy, but the ice cream, the Coca-Cola, the candy bars. Sometimes the biggest impacts come from the simplest things. A 5-cent Coca-Cola and an ice cream sundae on a hot summer day. If this story blew your mind like it did mine, do me a favour, hit that like button and drop a comment telling me what part surprised you the most. Was it the ice cream on the ship? The 50-pound weight gain? The town shopping trips? I want to know what got you. And if you're not subscribed yet, what are you waiting for? We've got more wild historical stories like this coming your way. Hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next one. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video.